When you see headlines about Nigeria's economy, it can be a bit of a mixed bag, right? So today, let's cut through all that noise and look at what the hard data is actually telling us. Because when you dig in, there's a really fascinating story starting to unfold. Okay, so what is the real story here? If we push past the day-to-day chatter, what are the big global institutions actually telling us about the country's direction? Let's find out. Well, it turns out the answer, once you dig in, is pretty clear. We're not just seeing growth. The key word here is accelerating growth. And that one idea really sets the stage for everything we're about to look at. Now, accelerating growth. That's a pretty big claim, right? So let's actually back it up with some hard numbers. We're going to look at two key data points from two sources you can definitely trust. All right, first up, let's set our baseline. We'll look at 2024. The IMF tells us that Nigeria's GDP, the main measure of its economy, it grew by 3.4%. Now, 3.4%, that's a solid number. It's our starting point. Okay, now let's jump forward. The World Bank gives us a more recent look, covering the first half of 2025, and their numbers show year-on-year growth hitting about 3.9%. So you see that? We've gone from 3.4 up to 3.9. That's the acceleration right there. And when you put them side by side like this, it just clicks. You can see the story so clearly. Look, it's not some crazy off-the-charts spike, but it is a definite, steady climb. It shows that the economic engine is literally picking up speed. Okay, so we've got the what down, right? The economy's growing and it's speeding up. But that just leads to the real question. Why? What's actually under the hood? What's driving this thing forward? And this is such a crucial question, isn't it? Because finding out why it's growing tells us if this is just a short-term thing or if it's something more sustainable. Is it all coming from one place or is something bigger at play? And what's so interesting is that the answer shows a really important shift happening. This isn't just about one thing. It's more like a three-part engine firing on all cylinders. First up, you've got a booming services sector. Think finance, tech, telecoms. Then, and this is huge, you have strength in all the non-oil industries. We're talking agriculture, manufacturing. That's a fantastic sign of diversification. And to top it all off, even the oil sector, the traditional powerhouse, is getting stronger. It's this mix, this balance, that makes what's happening right now so important. So we've seen the numbers, and we know what's driving them. Now let's zoom out. Let's connect the dots and talk about why this trend really, truly matters for Nigeria's economic future. Okay, so what's the big takeaway here? What should you remember from all this? Well, what we're witnessing is an economy that's becoming more diverse and, because of that, more resilient. It's not just leaning on oil anymore, which means it's less likely to get knocked over by shocks in that one area. Plus, when you get a thumbs up from big players like the IMF and the World Bank, that sends a really powerful message to the rest of the world about stability and opportunity. All of this together is laying down a really strong foundation for the future. And that really brings us to the big forward-looking question. When you put it all together, that accelerating growth, that growing diversification, you have to wonder, is Nigeria actually building a whole new economic foundation? Something stronger, something built to last? The data we've seen today suggests it's absolutely a possibility, and that makes this a story you're definitely gonna want to keep watching.